He is Chief Executive Officer at Port St Maarten, none other than Mr. Mark Mingo. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening, Aurel. I also want to say good evening to your guests, your viewers. And again, I think it's about a year I was here, so I'm here, to share everything I got. And yeah, good evening.
Good to have you here. And 13 months ago, he was here, so 1 year and 1 month.
Yeah, I'm a month late, but I'm here.
All right. So again, thanks for accepting the invitation. So, how are things going? Because you're at the head of a very huge organization that is the envy of the entire Caribbean.
Yeah, Aurel, I think your viewers and yourself have been following the developments of the port. I think the positive side, and I'll flow into some other points. We are number one cruise destination in the Caribbean for 2 years in a row. I think we're number 11 when it comes to cargo facilities, and we're also busy with other developments such as the water plants, etc. As you can see, being a leader in our line of business, you are continuously trying to reinvent yourself. You remember 2 years ago we had a FCC conference.
Right.
I think we spent significant on that to invest into the reinvention of the cruise industry, not only the cruise industry, but I think very important is that we get new entrepreneurs on board. Very simple, and I'll use it in that fact because Walter Plans project is the latest project we did and completed in December. The Little Walter Plans project actually hires 30 to 35 local entrepreneurs, really local St Maarteners. And that is the essence of where we're at. And I hope during the show I can also clarify some of the discussions, some of the points which you've read in the media. I believe 2 days ago we had also the Minister of Kingdom Affairs, Mr. Plaskerk, at the harbour, and we also explained the big picture. The harbour is not about self-interest. I've said that on many occasions in the paper, and I also on your show. The harbour is about the overall, the general interest. And in Dutch, they call it algemeen belang. We're not into the eigen belang. That is what I like to say tonight as a start-off.
What was the impression of the Dutch minister when he visited just a few days ago?
Well, of course, once you reach to the port, I mean, you've been to the port, the operations is an international operations. It's not just as I have some friends of mine say, Mickey Mouse operations. It's an international operations. We are under a lot of pressure, and again, the employees make it, without the employees of the port, it was not possible. But if you know today, the security rules, the measures, as you know, myself, for the last year, have been going through a lot of compliances for the port. Myself as a person also had to do a screening which is needed because you're part of critical infrastructure. Yeah. You have to go through this screening. And then you can complain, you've seen in the media as well, back and forth, but that's being part of that critical infrastructure. But when you look at, how the port is running, I think we're doing great. But I've always said the competition has increased. This year is going to make me 14 years on the helm of the port. I'm honored to be in that position. I think I have a lot of young talent around me. Mr. Peters, Mr. Gums, there are different people there. But we have to be careful. And the reason why we have to be careful is we have to look at the overall picture. It is not only anymore about the port. I said it as well, and the question also came up by Minister Plaskerk is, how do you look at the strategy? How do you look at dealing with competition? How do you look at dealing with stakeholders? And again, and I'm gonna emphasize it again, there needs to be a clarity on where we're going with the destination. And the reason I'm saying that there's only one pillar we have. Everyone talks about there's other pillars, side pillars, finance or whatever. End of the day, there's only one pillar, that's tourism. And that is where I can answer on that part.
The Port of St Maarten is a public-owned company. It's huge. But there's an issue right now with another company in the Great Bay Harbor. What's really happening there?
Well, Aurel, it's, as I said on many occasions, I do not, go in media and in social media or in papers and to discuss this. In 2007, we, of course, received an exclusive concession to be able to further develop the port. I think when we started in the early 90s, when we had to rebuild when the old Dr. AC Water Cruise and Cargo Facility pier was demolished by the hurricane. At that time also you had, in this case it was a commission, Heilige was involved in that and to put it on track. And you see that in the picture as well, and that is where we started. Then we go into different phases. Then we had phase one where we invested millions, and then of course we invested in phase two, which actually was the second pier and the area, the land around. What you're seeing there right now, you're talking about a value of about 300 million US valued, asset value. We did a refinancing with, of course, the bond loan with the central bank. We've lent about $150 million US, including the building of the Causeway. So if I really talk to the general public, if you really do the numbers, let's take away the 50 million from the 150 million, so we basically borrowed 100 million, where our asset value is close to 300 million. So it's like buying a house. You bought a house for 100,000, 5 years down the road, the house is worth 300,000. That is healthy. That is of doing business. You have to lend to invest. Coming back to the issue of Grade Bay and K Bay, by giving us a concession, that also protects the interests of the financiers. Don't forget, it's not a traditional finance model. It's a finance together with our partners. So what we did, we actually tied down the partners, which is Royal Caribbean and Carnival Cruise Lines, into this whole, let's say, finance model. And why do you do that? We actually tie them down to also guarantee passengers. Cuba's open up. You saw that we went with the port a month ago. We went with a delegation with the Dutch government to Cuba to find out what is really going on. I'm not too scared about Cuba. So to the public as well, Cuba is up and coming, but I believe that Cuba is going to bring more attention to the Caribbean basin. But when you bring attention to the Caribbean basin, it also means we have to have a clear strategy, the Tourist Authority. And all of this put in a pot, Oral, and I said it on many occasions. Of course, you know, as a CEO being there so long, you see things, you see the developments. And I've always said, you know, the harbor and airport have to work more closely together to be able to come with a clear strategy on the Tourist Authority. And I believe that most of if you talk about government officials or MPs, they share that vision. And the question is, how do we put that together? And of course, I have to deal with the stakeholders. Tomorrow I have a meeting with the stakeholders from Phillipsburg. There are a lot of concerns. Business is shifting. We had, of course, I understood also the Prime Minister has some concerns about NCL and the Disney, that they left or they then left. Disney calls then went down. We still have the Disney calls. What happened is that because Norwegian Cruise Lines invested in a pier in Totola, they're sending the larger ships like the Getaway class to Totola. We still get NCL ships. The calls have reduced, but that's also a trend of the business. As you can recall, I believe in 2014 we exited with 2 million passengers. I think today we'll exit, I think this year we'll exit around the 1.8. But our natural level for the business is between the 1.7 and 1.8 passengers. So to the public who's involved with cruise business, don't be concerned. It's part also of the business model. I hope that gives some clarity on the question you asked.
So now the concession that was given to Port St Maarten is for Great Bay and Simpson Bay, or? No,
it's for Great Bay and K Bay. There's a lot of discussions going on now about the concession in Simpson Bay because, as you know, we also acquired the Lagoon Authority. The Lagoon Authority has a management agreement with government. Yeah. We are not a regulator. I want to clearly state that. You know, they're saying we are regulated. We are not a regulator. We have a management agreement with government, I believe, till 2023, and we have certain tasks in the Lagoon area, in the Simpson Bay area. And one of the main tasks is making sure that there is economic sustainability, but also making sure that there's an equal playing field. And when I come to equal playing field, that also means that when we look at the industry, we must always have, I won't always say locals, but I think we need to have the locals, entrepreneurs involved. And local, I mean, not to go into a political discussion, is it a St Maartener? What is a St Maartener? But I believe the locals who contribute towards the destination St Maarten. So
SLAC is responsible for the lagoon?
That's correct. SLAC has different tasks, and two of the main tasks is to make sure that there's a sustainable economic development in that area, but also to look at, for example, when you look at cleaning of the lagoon, the support we give. I believe when you read in the paper, you saw that Slurpee, the little vessel Slurpee,
Right.
what takes actually the wastewater off of the vessel. We were one of the supporters. And we also contributed. I think their vessel got damaged or something like that. But we are also one of the partners there to make sure that that is done. So again, you know, a lot on our plate as Harbor Group, very diverse, and we have different pillars. We have the cargo section, we have the cruise section. Of course, we have the yacht and ferry section, which was also discussion with Minister Plaskerk. Where the connectivity between the Best Islander and St Maarten.
Those are mega yachts right there that we've seen at the port.
Yeah, they're actually not mega yachts. I think the developments of yachten have even...
They're still small?
Well, that mega yacht is actually a baby yacht. What you normally see, you saw the development from a mega yacht, ultra yacht to a giga yacht.
Oh, okay.
And the whole discussion about Grade B, the development of Grade B, is about the giga yachts. The giga yachts have almost become minor cruise ships.
Okay.
Those are also the yachts which cannot go into the lagoon. There have been a lot of discussions in Sins Bay. Do we put in a tunnel? Do we broaden the bridge? I think we have just revamped the bridge with monies from SLAC. So there are a lot of questions. Does SLAC really do its services with the money we make? SLAC is not a big company. It's almost a break-even company. And we just did all the repairs on the bridge. And I believe there's even an extension of life of the bridge as well.
What about the cruise ships? Because you can see that there's a number of cruise ships now coming in every day. This week we've had so many already. Yeah,
but Oral, the industry is in a motion of change, and that is something. What scares me is that people don't realize how fast those changes are occurring. I mean, we have that discussion a lot. For example, you see the demographics are changing. All of a sudden, you see now more European cruise ships coming. But guess what? The Europeans are the fastest sector which are building cruise ships. Germans, for example. We had last week, we had the Equinox. The Equinox is doing overnight calls now. So overnight calls basically means the ship is staying 2 days at port on St Maarten. Yeah, so what happens? Just very simple. Ship comes in, the people come off, they go back to the ship, and at 10 o'clock, most of the people go sleep on the ship. Then the crew members come off. But for example, if you have a ship of, let's say, 3,000 passengers, you have about 1,500 crew members. So when it overnight, you're talking about there are about 500 to 800 crew members coming off, and they want something to do.
Yeah.
And that is where we are looking at how do we rejuvenate the Phillipsburg area, how do you get everybody involved, and end of the day is economic spread. The reason why we build Walter plans about economic spread, and we need to make sure that as whoever are the stakeholders in that industry who are leading in their element, if now a jewelry store or if it's a restaurant or whatever, we need to get together and make sure come with a serious plan to deal also with the competition.
So when the ship stays in port, the casinos can open at night on the ship?
Well, that is a discussion we're having now with government. The first call that did not happen, I understood that the ships are going to Curacao and Aruba, and in the evening the casinos are open.
I don't see any problem with that.
I don't. Correct. So when we had, I think last year or 2 years ago, there was one big debate about should the airport or the harbor get a casino license, yes or no. I think it was in that realm. And again, having the vessel overnight means a lot of is a significant impact for the economy. But what I like to also be very careful with is the incidents or the security in the evening. If you have 1 or 2 incidents, you can also damage the destination name, and with the crime issue. And we did, I think the port, together with head of security, did a tremendous job. I also want to thank the police as well and customs that we do work very, very close together. I know resources are always an issue, but what they have done is tremendous. So, I want to thank the police force again, but we work very closely together with them.
Also, there's another thing, like, for example, inter-island cargo and all of this material coming off the ship here. This is a lot at the port right now, right? Yes, it is.
Well, what has happened is we also had to adjust our rules. I just was looking at the inter-island vessel. There's a lot of regulations now coming up with security. Are you compliant? Are you not compliant? ISPS. We just had representative of Homeland Security, U.S. Homeland Security on St. Maarten. That's actually the U.S. Coast Guard, and we had a meeting with Maritime Inspectorate. And those rules have been adjusted. What has been a challenge for us and the port is with all these rules, you have to make sure that you still stay friendly in doing the ease of business. And I know we lost a lot of the inter-island vessels to the friend side, but we have plans now to get back to attract that business. But that business is very important because you can imagine the cost you lesses, the other wholesalers, backstreet. These vessels come in, they buy up stuff, and those are actually exported to other islands. So it's a very important logistical support to actually sell more products, bringing in more containers.
And I was surprised that also cement.
Yes.
It's packaged there.
Yeah. Well, some years ago, remember we had the issue in Simpson Bay, and people forget very fast. We had a lot of dust clouds of cement in Simpson Bay.
Right.
And I believe at that time, government came to us and said, let's solve this. I mean, the vessel brings cement. And we've solved it. There's an underlying line where the cement goes from the ship back to the plant. And basically all the cement, most of the cement on the island is actually going through this facility. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It does also bagging of cement where they transship these bags. And of course, we even had an event when they had, I believe, a hurricane that the cement plant also got damaged, but it's back on track. So yes, indeed, we look at all elements of if it's now semi-manufacturing or bagging or whatever, we contribute to the economy. And when you look at our mission statement, the mission statement of the port and then the vision of the port is not only about cruise and cargo, it's about the overall performance of the economy. And that basically means that all the stakeholders who are in business related to tourism or turnover selling commodities, they will benefit from that economic drive.
You also have the visitors that leave from the port and go downtown, but they don't take a taxi.
Yeah, that's
a water taxi.
Yeah, that's true. I must also say, I think tonight there's elections, which I have to go after your show, for the new president of the Taxi Association. You read a lot about it as well.
Yeah.
But again, here we go as port, we have to keep the balance between those numbers. We have the land taxis, we have the water taxi. You see right now what you're seeing is actually the new vessels of the water taxi, where actually 200 passenger vessels.
So 200?
Yes, 200 can go, because before we had the 80 passenger vessels, and that basically means there's a very fast development also in moving people around. And moving people around over the water is very good because it eases a burden on the roads. So we move about 40% over the water. I believe it will be, and we're busy with that, to move more people over the water. But then again, you get into the discussion with the land taxes, how do you create the balance? For example, when I started in 2001 at the port, I believe 7% of the people were walking. Well, guess what? Today, there are 33% of people are walking. 1/3 are walking. So there you go again with the properties from the harbor going to town. Everybody's actually maneuvering and elbowing to see where they get that position as well.
So what I realized, and this is quite interesting, is that when you look at St. Maarten and you look at, say, the Bahamas, and I was in the Bahamas with you and MP Gallagher and some others back in 2000.
Where we had Oasis.
Yeah, right.
I think I even was on board at
you was there too, right.
The first inaugural call to St. Maarten
exactly.
via Bahamas, yes, correct.
And what I noticed in the Bahamas is that they cannot handle ships the way St. Maarten handle. A lot of ships come in and they have a lot of traffic jams. We don't have that. Yesterday we had 6 cruise ships in, and you wouldn't know unless you wasn't.
Today we also had 6 of the larger ones. I think we had about 25,000 people coming to shore. I think I must, you must give Jack his jacket. I think the design of the port was done very well. It is a logistical center, but we also have made the right adjustments to that logistical center. For example, you saw that just now that the operator for the water taxis has actually invested huge amounts of money in these new vessels. What you also saw that the Walter Plans is not only a area where you can meet, it's also a pier. There's also a pier where you can go down to the Sea Palace area. But don't forget the original idea is also a part of the Almeida Plan. The Almeida Plan, I believe, was created in the early 90s, and we've took elements and actually improved the logistics of it. So on one hand, yes, very important that that port is there, but we have to continue to make the adjustments when you talk about security, when you talk about gate security, you know, now everybody has to be checked. I believe there were some incidents where you even have people coming, trying to get out of port and even testing, you know, how can it get in. And so we're very, it has changed. We're very strict who comes to the port, but that's also have to do with the compliance, security compliance.
Notice here's what this is after damage from hurricane at the port. The
Yes, this was actually one of the hurricanes. I believe that was in 2005. Or, don't get me wrong. That was actually, we had some serious damage with a hurricane. I also believe I think the second pier was under construction. It seems to be whenever we do construction in the port, we get a hurricane. But this was one of the areas. I believe this wasn't even a large hurricane. I think the swell did a lot of damage. And what we did as well, and when the general public, when you see it, we, for example, bought a Model 6 crane, a huge crane to actually enhance the business and get, that's one of the, that's actually the Model 6 crane, which is a model, but then at least the viewers can see too, look, it's a huge crane, it's a huge investment. And you know, you also have to have certified people to maintain the crane, and I think we even have up to 6 operators operating those cranes. And that's night work, so it's really high-tech operations.
It's amazing because I was there in December. I think it was December 3rd. It was, or December for the GMA.
Yeah, the new vessel came in. Right. What is happening in actually the developments in cruise? Because a lot of people think we're only in cruise. We're also heavily in cargo. Even the cargo vessels have increased in size. I believe we used to do 400 TUs, 800 TUs vessels up to 1,000. But the new CMA vessel was 2,200 TU vessel. Wow. And these vessels are actually built in China, and we are actually competing with other ports to get that done. And it's continuous investment, because you imagine those vessels come from Europe and they're looking to offload the cargo for the surrounding islands. But of course, most of the cargo, a lot of the cargo is also cold storage. And now we are in discussions with the partners, such as Mr. Pelgrim, who is actually representing SS, where we are looking to see if we can get more plug-ins. Plug-ins basically means that the cold storage, the freezer containers can overnight here for a good, for maybe a day, and then they can be transshipped to the surrounding. So we're looking continuously and increasing the transshipping business, because local consumption, you reach your ceiling, unless we get more beds or more hotels on the island, but local consumption has its ceiling.
What surprised me is what the CEO of that shipping company said that night, that the amount of growth potential on St. Maarten is just amazing.
Yes,
the cargo.
Yeah, if you look at, and I think when in my short interview, if you look at the possibilities, we grow, CMA CGM, they grew in double digits, but I think people also have to realize, as port, you have to continue to invest in your product. And as port, you also played a role, and I said it on the beginning of your interview, you look at it algemeen belang, you look at the general interest of it, and sometimes you get a lot of friction, but that is also the role of the port. But end of the day, when you look at the mission of the port, it's about the economy. And I think our success remains that we listen to our customers, we listen to the partners who are leading, if it's now in operations or in sales or whatever, we listen to our customers. That has been always the success of the port. We don't know it all, but the day you stop listening, I think you will create your own problems.
So what are you doing here? Where are you here now?
Oh, that's actually I think that was the opening of the Causeway, by Slack. The famous Causeway. I think a lot of people have forgotten the work which the port has put in there. I believe I also want to really thank the employees as well who have worked on this. There's a lot of people behind the scenes have worked. We finished the Causeway on time. Again, at that time, government as well, you know, there's a lot of discussion about the connectivity.
Yeah.
And of course, you always get the question, but maybe the airport should have worked on the connectivity with the airport. Look, that's a discussion which I leave up to government. End of the day, the harbor doesn't belong to Mark Mingo or to no politician, to no board. Sometimes it's seen that way. But end of the day, the decision lays by the shareholder, which in this case would be the minister as shareholder rep and the council of ministers. So I also report to a board of directors, and the board of directors report to the shareholder as well. So you don't want to get too much into the information, but the Causeway is just the first step on improving the infrastructure around Simpson Bay. It's just the first step, and we need to carry it further.
Well, in case people are wondering how that happens, we have a computer system, so as you speak, I can just pull it up. So that's what happened. You know, it's amazing because the Causeway, it really has served the purpose. Although people don't like to hear me say that, I can get easier to Simpson Bay today than I could a year ago. You know, and you could see how it has helped. And if the bridge go bad, then what?
Yeah, so, well, you have two options now. That's one of the reasons. There were different reasons for building the cause. One, for the traffic. The other one is also the risk for the connectivity for the airport. So imagine, you remember on the front side, there was issues with opening of the bridge, was closed for 2-3 days. Imagine the Simpson Bay Bridge closes, the first one, the bridge by the hotel closes for 2 days. How would you be able to get to the airport with all the hotels? You'll have to go all the way through Sandy Ground, Marigold, Sandy Ground in the back. So that was also one of the discussions we had, is how do you get this off the ground? So there were different discussions. So one of the responsibilities of the Lagoon Authority as well, in this case, was look at the economic viability of Simpson Bay. And let's be honest, Phillipsburg is actually the backyard of the harbor. I wouldn't say that Simpson Bay is the backyard of the harbor, but as Lagoon Authority, we look at it from a sustainable perspective. And at that time, the right decision was to build a causeway and make that connectivity. And I'll be honest with you, we did a review after, and the review from the engineers also said we have to still do a lot of work with the side roads. I think the side roads, when you go on Simpson Bay and Cold Bay, they create a lot of bottlenecks. But also, we are looking at a system now that when you're on a side road and on certain peaks of the day, we'll put certain stoplights on the side road that you have to wait until the traffic on the main road. So there are a lot of ideas there. We're working on it. But again, we also have to work together with VROMI and with the right institutions to make sure that it's done the correct way, and who's responsible for it as well.
So, where are you here at this meeting? Where is this?
Oh, that's actually the yearly convention we go to. I think they changed the name in cruise ship in Miami. It was always called Seatrade. Oh. This year is going to be held in I believe, in Fort Lauderdale. We always try to involve people to go to the show. You meet a lot of decision makers. You get all the destinations there.
So local people can go to?
Local people can go to, and yes, correct. If you're interested in getting to know the business, you know, it's in Miami. If you book in advance, it's normally held in March. I would advise, if you want to get in the business, just invest a little in it, and or call the port or send the port on Facebook or any way if that you're interested. And then we can also make sure you're part of it. But all the decision makers are there, and all the destinations are there as well. Yeah, this is one of the meetings we're having in Miami, and then this is one of the executives from Royal Caribbean where we're discussing the development next to the port. But these are actually the executive one-on-one discussions we have during conferences. So we don't only do the conference in Miami, we also do the conference in Europe. We do the conference in the FC conference as well. We also do CSA, which is a cargo conference, and we also once in a while take part in boat shows as well.
What is this? See, everyone is around this visitor in the cart.
Yeah, that's a old picture. I believe in 2002. I believe you have the old president there, Mr. Otis. I see our operating director, Mr. Franca, and you see myself. I think I had a little more here, but I won't go there. But I think that was the first time we hit a million mark. Okay. And we often forget very fast the million mark, and that for us was really a highlight. And now people are screaming, yeah, but why are we not going over the 2 million? I even heard this evening, but St Maarten can easily do 3 million. Look, there is a level of doing business when you look at the amount of passengers, and when you also have to look at the satisfaction rate. If you have too much passengers, it could also bring the satisfaction rate low. And you also got to think about the stores and how do you man the people working at the stores and making sure that they can give a good service. So that is, I actually have to laugh at that picture because there was somebody in the picture which we didn't even mention who actually was working at the port. So, yeah.
Well, I look in there, I see a former MP.
He's somewhere in the picture in the back.
Yeah.
I think it was the other picture with, I think we were playing dominoes. Yeah, somewhere there. I think he's there. But, you know, I'm not going to say that the harbor produces a lot of good politicians, but the harbor has always been involved. I think Romain has did a great job at the port. I don't know about politics because I'm not a politician, I'm an executive. But again, you know, we are part of society, and like it or not, we try to make that difference.
All right, and here you are at the water plants.
Yeah, that's actually an old picture, I believe. I see the board member, Mr. Hodge, Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Humphrey Mesas, I think Mr. Joe Richardson. That was actually the opening of recognizing Walter Plants, giving the Walter Plants a name. I believe several years ago we actually built the jetty there. We also purchased the land from the family at that time. And today we have a beautiful Walter Plants. I hope for your next show or in the future you can show some of the elements of the Walter Plants. And you know, it's really, we made it as something for us. And I think it's a little slogan, it is we own thing, but it's something nice to go with the kids and with the waterfall, etc. What picture I see here? Yeah, this is actually was actually my birthday. You know, my dad actually made birthday on Tuesday, the 2nd of February. You know, it's for the family. It wasn't easy with my dad passing last year, but this reminds me a little bit. This was actually a surprise party which the employees did.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to comment on the colors blue and green, but that was you know, I try to stay connected with employees because it's not easy. And Oral, I always said, you know, you hear people saying, oh, but he's always traveling, he's always doing this. Let's be honest. If I sit in my office looking at a computer screen, we're not going to get business. Most of our customers are international.
This is your main customer here.
Oh,
right?
these are our customers here. Then those customers don't live on St Maarten. They live abroad, and it's tough. It's if you compare it with 10 years ago, the amount of effort you spend on getting the customer, and today, I can tell you it at least fivefold or sixfold the competition degree of getting those customers.
All right. And we're now at what, 2 million, you said?
Yeah, we're 2 million. I think the exit will be a little less. I think we exited in 2015 with 1.9. But as I said in earlier oral, our normal level of business is between the 1.7 and 1.8. And then we look at the satisfaction level. So you look at the quality of service you're giving back to the guests, so your ratings are high. Our ratings are very high. When you look at the expenditure level of cruise passengers, we're #1 in the Caribbean. And people can argue the facts, but the reports are there.
I was surprised.
And we're #2 in crew. And what we're trying to figure out is how do you improve once you're #1.
So you passed St. Thomas then?
Yes, we did pass St. Thomas in 2014. And again, once you pass your competition, you get very aggressive. Yeah, of course. That is it, yeah.
I'll take a call for you, Mr. Mingo. Oral Gibbes live on caller. Hello?
Yes, good night, Oral.
Good night.
Also good night to your guest.
Good night.
I have a little concern about the cruise industry. I'm afraid that all that glitters is not gold. It got something called the feel-good factor. It also has something called common sense. If you have somebody have a lot of money and only bring and bring and bring, sometimes they will get poor. I mean, common sense tell me that. So the people coming after the cruise ship, I don't think they're doing anything much for us. I think we are doing more for them than they are doing for us. And that is sad, because everybody wants a big in. I would like to hear your comments.
Mr. Mingo?
Well, Oral, when I started the show, and I told you, if you look at the vision and mission of the port, it's about the general interest, and you question yourself every day when you go to work. And the caller is right. Why do we have tourism? Why do we have tourism? For who is tourism? Then you have to look at the balance between stakeholders. And the balance between stakeholders, that is usually also determined by, you can say government, you can say platforms such as marine trade, the SHTA, but very important, the platform is determined by the tourist authority. The tourist authority is going to set the tone for where we're going at. And again, I hear that every day. I mean, when you look at the port, and that's the port, we have 69 employees, all those employees are St Maarteners, young professionals. When you look at Walter Plants, when you look at the people working there, it's between 30 and 35 locals. And then, of course, I get a little refer because look then at other businesses and industries who are working there, who are doing it. This has nothing to do with is that because we're against foreigners or anything? This is something serious. The question even was asked by several Dutch officials. How do you deal with this? How are we going to go forward with this? Why are we doing tourism? And the caller again is right, because we are also depleting our natural resources. A simple example, the lagoon, the St Bay Lagoon. Oral, could I invite you tomorrow to go swim with me in the lagoon?
I won't swim there for sure.
What is your answer?
I won't swim there.
Correct. So there's right. There could be a glitter and glamour, but I'm going to be very serious and adamant about that. The port has the responsibility to make sure that we find a balance. And guess what? There are not many friends out there at the port, and we will continue to push that. And end of the day, the mission of the port is determined by government.
All right.
Simple as that.
Let me take some more calls here. Oral Gibbes Live, you're on caller. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on live, caller.
These nuts?
Hello? Oral Gibbes Live, you're on caller. Hello? Good evening, sir.
I admire Mr. Mingo for his determination, yes. But with some things, there are the pros and the cons. Now, that, what do you call it again? The long strip there, instead of forgetting it. But anyway, let me say a bridge, but it's not that.
Oh, you mean this?
Hello?
You mean this? Look at your screen. This what you mean?
Let me see. I'm looking at my screen.
7 seconds, you'll see
Yes,
it.
exactly. It couldn't come to me at the moment. Listen. The amount of money that was invested in that causeway shows that there is no real regard for the health of our people. That money could have been also an asset to improving the health on the island. It's a lot of money, you know, and it's not being finished paid for, is it? Is it paid off?
Okay, let me have Mr. Mingo respond to you, Mr. Lake.
Well, the bridge, the causeway, in this case the causeway, that was part of the financing project. You know, I'm not gonna divulge too much in should we spend it there or the priorities. I mean, I've said it before already. Am I a good CEO for investing the money in areas which need to be invested, or am I a bad CEO for having 100 million? Maybe like other companies, I'm not saying other government-owned companies, to have 100 million on account, but don't want to go in that discussion. The discussion is we chose, together with government, to do that project. There was a clear, let's say a clear set of areas where we needed to do that, the connectivity of the airport. We lose the airport, we lose the island. Simple as that. That was the ultimate goal. The port, the harbor, the seaport cannot survive without the airport. The airport cannot survive with the seaport. That is bottom line. That's why I said the tourism.
They're interconnected.
They're interconnected. Just like in any British island or even in New York, you have the Port Authority who owns the Twin Towers.
Right.
They go in real estate, they own the airport, they run the airport and harbors. But coming back to the question of the gentleman, I would agree with you. We spend money on the causeway. It was done correctly. Everybody thinks, oh, it was just dropped out of the sky. We had 5 different contractors. We went through the whole process. But it's a lot of money. But I think the airport has invested a lot of money as well for the airport itself. So then you have to choose. The decision was not only made by the CEO, board of directors, was chosen by, that decision was chosen by government, board of directors, and the CEO. And at the end of the day, I'm responsible. I have to make the call. I find it was the right call because it also puts the discussion on the map. What about the infrastructure for St Maarten? And the infrastructure is not only roads. The infrastructure is also the hospital. By the way, my wife has a normal insurance. She ended up in emergency in the hospital in St Maarten. She had to be flown to Curacao. So I understand the issue. I understand the concerns. But the causeway also brings up the exact discussion, how are we dealing with the infrastructure balance and investment for St Maarten? Not only the hospital, there are other areas, the schools. My children don't go to no private school or learning unlimited, whatever. I mean, I'm throwing a shot one and there, here and there. But the schools, we also have to look at the schools. So it's an overall discussion we need to have and make sure we invest the right monies in a balanced manner. We can't have only nice roads. We can't have only state of the art of a hospital. But I do believe, and I agree with the gentleman, the hospital doesn't fall underneath of the harbor. But even crew members, they go to the hospital for issues. I think we even, if you look at the amount of incidents we have, we're even looking right now to see if we can have a location with an ambulance at the port because of the amount of incidents we're having. So again, I'm giving you the full spectrum. I know I answered your question as well. The Causeway is not paid off. It's part of a financing model. If we could lend 50 million for Causeway, we can lend 50 million for hospital. End of the day, I'm not a Johnny-come-lately, Oral. I believe I've earned my stripes. 2001, 2002, I started, and there are issues on St Maarten, and that's something we need to address together.
How you feel, because a lot of your critics and some have been saying the whole thing with the cruise industry and the agreement that the port had with the shipping cruise companies and Zebec turned out to be in conflict with each other?
Well, Oral, you know, sometimes you have to make decisions. I'm a CEO. Yeah. I don't make decisions if they're not popular, unpopular. I make decisions with the facts you have. Most of the people don't know the facts. They run to the newspaper, they judge. I don't communicate via social media and a newspaper. I think a setting with radio station and your show is the right setting to discuss this. Strategic agreements with the cruise lines, we have made that to look at the sustainability. So the strategic agreements with cruise lines are 25 years with guaranteed passengers. So at least then, when you start your own little business based on the cruise lines or whatever, and again, I understand the issue that there are a lot of entrepreneurs who want to get in the cruise business and they want piece of the cake, piece of the pie, piece of the action. I already said, join, get involved, spend a little money, go to the convention. You always have a chance to meet the team at a port. You get in contact, and we are willing to give a presentation, whatever. So we are accessible. But end of the day, is the cruise industry good for St Maarten? I do believe the cruise industry is fantastic for St Maarten. Let me explain why. When you ask 10 tourists on St Maarten, how did you come to St Maarten? I think out of the 10, 8 will tell you, we were on a cruise. So that alone confirms to me that there is an asset and a conversion, automatic conversion going on. Now, if you look at the balance of the industry, we've moved away from only talking about cruise. We've moved away. We've gone to home porting. You remember the home porting smaller vessels? Mm-hmm. That also means that contributes towards the airport. The people are flown in. They stay a few nights in a hotel, and then they go on board of the ship, and these usually are not the low-end clientele. These are the high-end. I think they paid for a cruise between $10,000 and $30,000 in a week or 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's a difficult position to be in, but I do understand the gentleman, and I think we can use a lot more entrepreneurs in the industry. I believe when we invested millions in the conference, we were the #1 conference in 21 years, but I also can remember that with Michelle Page, I got held that one day, the Thursday, was only open for locals and local entrepreneurs. Even, I believe the Chamber and Small Business was involved. And there's a lot of feedback coming off of it as well. And don't say that you can't have access to it, because right now when you see all these new players coming online with Shorex, with the tours, a lot of them are new young players. For example, the party bus. There's a lot of different elements happening, and we are looking for that innovation as well. So that is what I can add on what the caller actually is talking about.
So now at the port, is there going to, the project with Zebec, that's off the table now? Yeah, all the problems are finished.
Well, the issue, you know, legally I'm not allowed to talk too much about it, but I think end of the day it's about conditions and also safeguarding the interest in Phillipsburg. I have to look for the balance. So what I find very strange is when we were building too much in the port, we had a lot of critics attacking. Now when the port protects building less, we again have critics. So End of the day, you will always have critics, but end of the day, there's a plan. There's a strategic plan 2019, and we will follow that strategic plan.
What about, so then, will there be a casino and a hotel at the port?
Well, in this case, as I recall, a year ago, there was a lot of discussion. Royal Caribbean is going to develop the property next door. I don't know exactly when. They're still in process.
Yeah.
We're dealing with finances and those things. There's a timeline on that as well. But what is the most important anchor at the port would be the 4-star hotel. And I think when you have a 4-star hotel, I believe with more than 200 rooms, I don't know exactly the rules, there will be a casino there. So, you know, again, when I stated in earlier when we were discussing about casino license, I don't want to get in that, but end of the day, we all know when you have a hotel of more than X amount of rooms, they look for that element as well.
The Port of St Maarten is a huge operation. You look at it, I don't think people, and I always tell you this, I don't think people on this island still have any real idea of the operation, the size of this company. And how many people you have employed with you there?
Well, already we have only 69 employees.
Only 69?
We also outsource.
Wow.
We also outsource a lot of the jobs, like security, cleaning, because then you can find the right balance between, you have employees versus outside. And you know, even I believe there was a lot of discussions about the security contract. I don't want to talk too much about that. But for sure, we were approached, and they are also in process of hiring more St. Maartens, getting them involved in the industry. But again, it's a protected industry in the sense that security is key. There are rules to that. I mean, you can't just either Oral and myself mean you go and run on a runway in the airport. It doesn't work that way. So it's the same process. Only thing, we have a lot of volume. So so that is yes, indeed, it's an international operation.
Let me take a call for you. Oral Gibbes live on caller. Hello, you're on live, caller. Well, I guess person got scared. But you know, it's amazing. I was always telling people, I remember as a little boy, we walk up to the port and you could just open cans of soda. Those days, there were no containers.
Or fishing, you remember there's a lot of people
fish around it.
Oh, but you close up Point Blank to fishing. I used to fish here too.
So you can't fish anymore, right?
Well, you could. I believe when we opened Walter Plans, we had a fishing tournament on the little pier in town. And you imagine how much, it is really a lot of fish there. But coming back to Point Blank, you can, but I think when we look at the off-season, there are opportunities there. But when there's operations, or well, you can't fish here. I mean, there are rules to that. You know, sometimes I even get bogged down in so much of compliances where you sometimes ask yourself, so much of red tape, but that is a challenge. The challenge is moving quickly, being innovative, and still deal with all the compliances.
I had to tell you that the new crane is incredible. It's really sophisticated, man.
Yeah, it's unreal, and especially the operation in the evening when you see it's all joystick. I mean, I understood they're looking for more operators.
Really?
Yeah, we even select the operators, be it if you're good at an Xbox or a PS2 or Nintendo. Actually, it is. We look at the talents you have with a joystick, and it's like a plane. It's really high tech in that sense.
They're all locals who operate the cranes?
They're all locals, correct. They're all locals. And what we, of course, have to do, the compliance is very high, so we have to continuously look at training them and make sure they're certified.
Let me ask you this, because you know, sometimes you have a little boy, a little girl watching a cruise ship come in, and they see a little yellow boat go out to the cruise ship. Who's in that yellow boat?
Well, in a yellow boat, you have the pilots. You know, without the pilots, the ship don't come in. And then I want to say hello to my pilots again, because a lot of the times, you know, they're out there early in the morning. They're on 24-hour shift. 24 and then, of course, yes, then you also, because we're a 24-hour port.
I didn't know that.
In international, saying you either are not 24 hours or you're 24 hours. So by law, you have to be open. You have to be accessible. So these guys, even if a ship comes in at 4 o'clock in the morning, they have to be on call. So you imagine that's a continuity job. But who you have on a pilot boat, our first pilot boat actually went for repairs on the front side, and that's coming back, and hopefully in a month time we'll name both of the pilot boats. But come back to the new pilot boat we're using, you have the captain on board, you have, of course, his support, and then, of course, you have the pilots going out in the evening, climbing up the ladders on the cruise ships and bringing them in as well. Not only cruise ships, cargo ships, and they also do a lot of support for the yachts going into the lagoon.
So now, if a young boy or girl watching the show wants to become a pilot, is it possible? How can they become a pilot? Well, what do they need to become a pilot?
Well, you need to get involved, and I think one of the things we always make a mistake, we have a lot of programs there. We have the summer programs. You can also do an intern at the port. You can send us something on Facebook. We normally react very quickly. but there are opportunities. I think we even have two young guys from St Maarten. They're actually now finishing their education. One to become a pilot. I think two of them to become a pilot. But there's also need of maritime administrators. I myself last year had to redo my education. I did an executive program in Philadelphia in the Walton School. And I also had to upgrade myself in compliance, ethics, integrity, and those kind of things. So the port is always in a move when it comes to training and certifying personnel.
You know, this island is growing a lot, and we've seen the harbor, the airport, and other companies run by our own people, which is great. And you think that trend is going to continue?
But you know, sometimes, Oral, I feel like, you know, the saying, I feel sometimes I'm like the last of the Mohicans directors. We always laugh about it. You said, I'm made from Teflon. But again, I'm there to support. A lot of times you think, why are you doing this? Like the caller said as well. But end of the day, when you talk about GB, when you talk about airport, when you talk about TALEM, when you talk about UTS, when you talk about the post office, when you talk about EEC, they're my brothers and sisters. And those companies are the future of St Maarten. Because when you look at young talent, St Maarten talent, those are the grounds where they're cultivated. Yes, we need more entrepreneurs. Yes, we know we need more people in the economy, in the private sector, getting a dig in, as what they say, your callers say, get a dig in. But you also have to be bold enough to also not only criticize, but also take the chance. And again, I am there. I do a lot of coaching as well, and I think we have a lot of talent out there. So, you know, it's nice to bash government-owned companies, but those are the engines of the economy. Yes, we have the private sector. You're also in the private sector. But we need to work hand in hand. And not only saying it, but executing it. And again, we can argue that the harbor is not the biggest company of the government-owned companies, and we contribute the most, but I'm not here to pound on my chest. I'm here to make sure that we deliver value proposition and we share our success story. You might not agree, or you might disagree, or agree, but end of the day, we are leading in what we do. So I leave it up to the public, I leave it up to the customers of the port to judge that performance.
Well, Mr. Mingo, I want to thank you for coming in and having the courage to sit here on a live show where everyone can call and ask you any question they want to. And I want to wish you and your whole crew at the Port of St Maarten much success. Anything else you want to add in closing, 20 seconds?
No, Oral, I want to thank you for being on the show. Tonight I was going to say, should I take calls, should I not take calls? I say, yes, I'm going to take calls. I'm not afraid of criticizing, but it has to be structural criticism. And again, I want to thank you. You know, the family's hurting. My dad passed away last year, and my grandmother in the same month. Right. But again, you knew him, and again, I take it out to tell my family, be strong. And again, to the public of St Maarten, I'm there, and if there's anything you need or get in contact with the port, we're there for St Maarten.
All right, I want to thank you again for coming in. Wish you much success. I know that your father was a remarkable man, and you really missed him a lot. But life goes on, right?
Yeah, that's true. Life goes on, and as they say, you got to deal with life head on.
Right. Again, thanks a lot, Mr. Mingo, and much success.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And that's it for now. See you next time right here on Oral Gibbes Live. Till then, good night. Take care. Bye.